So, Hare Krishna, today I am very honored to be interviewing Akrura Prabhu, who is from Gita Coaching, and I'm quite curious myself to find out more about what you do, Prabhu, and the idea of life coaching, and especially based on Bhagavad Gita, sounds like a really great idea. So I'm really looking forward to knowing more, and I'm sure that those that are listening will also be very curious, and I'm sure they'll also get some inspiration from hearing about you. I don't actually know so much about you myself, so would you be able to introduce yourself and just tell us a bit about your background?
Hare Krishna, thank you for this wonderful introduction, which I don't think I deserve, but I have been serving in ISKCON for about 30 years.
Wow.
And Gita coaching I have started about 10 years ago when I moved to London, and I started to learn and get training myself, professional training in coaching, and because I've seen that these kind of skills are very, very useful in helping devotees succeed. And in ISKCON, devotees are trainers like Anuttama Prabhu, Braj Bihari Prabhu. They started to use professional knowledge to help devotees improve in different areas, to improve leadership and management and preaching. And I thought coaching is just perfect for devotees. It's very Brahminical, it's very practical, and it helps us to apply the principles from the scriptures. So, I don't know what shall I say about myself?
Well, first of all, you've been in the Krishna consciousness movement for 30 years. What were you doing before that? Were you involved in anything like coaching, or is that something that it's just something that you've been inspired to do since you've joined Hare Krishna movement?
Before I joined, I studied English and I did music. I had a band. I did some sports. And I joined when I was 25, so I was just a normal youth. But also I started reading and searching, and I tried to read different things, but always I was looking for the essence. So very quickly I stopped reading authors, and I started reading books which are very universal, like books on yoga, books on spiritual things. And somehow I came across the Bhagavad Gita, but it was not Prabhupada's Gita. First I read some other Gitas, like Penguin Company's Gita, which also very much impressed me and inspired me. And somehow by reading one or two translations of the Gita, I developed appreciation. And later, when I found out that there is Bhagavad Gita as it is, of course, I was curious to see what is that. So, my also connection with Krishna consciousness came about through music. I got a single record by George Harrison with mantra recorded with devotees. And on the B side, there was also these wonderful prayers to the spiritual master, which are not included in the Goddess of Fortune album. And this also I liked so much because I was also into music. And I also got from a friend an LP, long play record that my schoolmate's sister got in London from a devotee. So this was an amazing, it's called Hare Krishna Festival, amazing LP. I think Hamsaduta was, Hamsaduta Prabhu at that time, he was actually singing a long kirtan, and there were some other songs. It was Bhakti Bhavava Swami, maybe his wife Timavati, and some other devotees singing beautifully on this long play, and I played it at home. And I remember my brother started laughing, and my father. So there was so much positive energy, and also that they say this is repeating all the time the same. Just stop it. But they were laughing and they liked it. I was thinking, my goodness, how this sound affects my family. I mean, I'm trying to understand it and I like it very much, but it has an amazing, almost mystical influence on them. So I became more curious about that, and then I got in touch with devotees through letters. They started writing to me beautiful, very personal letters and sending me like Maha Prasadam bits in the envelope.
Oh, really? Where were you living at that time?
I was living in Serbia.
And were there any devotees in Serbia at that time?
No, there was nobody there. I know there is devotees in Yugoslavia at that time. I didn't know any. They sent me back to Godhead magazine. They sent me like a second-hand Gita because I didn't have money to pay it. And they were so kind to me. And I thought, my goodness, these people are very special. So I visited, my first visit to the temple was in Villa Vrindavan in Italy in 1982, December. And then I visited also Vienna temple. And then I started practicing at home, and I joined in 83 in March. Like 4 months after I visited the temple, I joined, and then I never left.
So what was your service that you did in the beginning times?
At the beginning, I did cleaning, washing pots, a little bit of
standard
cooking.
procedure, yep.
At the very start, my kind temple president, Naladvi Prabhu in Zagreb, Croatia, he actually engaged me in preaching, and I started speaking to guests quite early. And then I think after maybe 1 year, I started giving classes, and that was very inspiring for me to speak. Although before that, I was mainly actually silent. I wouldn't talk much with anybody. When I came to Krishna consciousness, I started to speak, and
a hidden talent was starting to manifest.
Now I speak too much.
It's great. The things that you talk about are wonderful. If you talk about Krishna, you can never talk too much.
Wow.
So as you went on in Krishna consciousness, eventually you decided to take up training as a life coach. I'm curious to know what were experiences that you had that led you to that.
My first interest was in leadership, and I started reading some professional books on leadership, and I learned from some companies who are teaching about leadership that if you want to get results from training, coaching will help you as a follow-up.
All right, okay.
So it was kind of, coaching was a natural follow-up on training. And training for me is like the most important word on earth, or in life. And as Prabhupada says that this world is a training ground, so I felt that I need more training, and devotees need more training, and our leaders need more training. And this is when I started to communicate with Bhakti Tirtha Swami, who wrote 2 books on leadership, which I read, and I liked them very much. But also parallel, I started reading some books recommended by some of our leaders, and then I discovered the whole world of training and leadership and personal improvement. And I thought this is very practical and very useful. And we can use it in devotional service. But also I have seen that sometimes devotees got too much into these other things, and these like professional knowledge became like a new religion for them.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. They become born again.
Yeah. So they kind of put Krishna consciousness on a back burner, and because some of these teachings fulfilled some of their emotional needs or some other needs, they thought that these teachings are really amazing and that they should just completely surrender to them. And I saw this as a danger. And so I was careful not to teach too much or quote some people too much, because I see that devotees are very reluctant to accept people from the outside world as authorities. And I think this is also justified, although Prabhupada said that intelligent person can take a jewel from a pile of garbage, and you can learn even from a low-born person or whatever, because you can learn things from them. People know certain things, but at the same time, all the knowledge that we get from the professional books is tinged with the modes of passion and ignorance. And this is where we have to be careful how we use it. And I try to be careful, and slowly I thought that the best way actually to teach about success and personal improvement is to use our own scriptures like Bhagavad Gita,
right?
Because because our books are full of success principles. We just have to, isolate them or identify them and then use them.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. So have you found that the Bhagavad Gita is the scripture that you focus on the most when you're doing that, or do you refer to all the different sort of scriptures? I'm just saying that because you've called it Gita coaching, so it seems that you have a special attraction to the Bhagavad Gita.
Yes, this is the most famous book, and from the marketing point of view, I think that kind of name is the best. But it's not limited to Gita, because there is Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Nectar of Devotion. There is Prabhupada's lectures, conversations, letters.
Yeah, so much.
So, yes, so we use all these resources to identify and apply success principles. But what I'm trying to do at the moment, I'm trying to write a book called Gita for Success.
Oh, cool. I like the name of that.
And I will try to go through every chapter and extract the most, I would say, attractive success principles and put them in the book or a manual that will be inspiring, I hope, and practical for people, and to show that this book is actually the ultimate success book.
Right, nice.
I consider Bhagavad Gita a holistic success book. It gives guidelines for the body, mind, and spirit. And the difference between Bhagavad Gita and other motivational books is described by one Sankirtan devotee from Slovenia, from where I'm speaking right now. One devotee said that when he was selling books, he was telling people that these books are the best motivational books, because once you get motivated with them, motivation never stops. So I thought that's a wonderful description of the value of Prabhupada's books from the success point of view.
Uninterrupted and, it just keeps going. Yeah, that's great. I'm just thinking here. What would you say are some of the principles of success that might be a little bit unique to Krishna consciousness, that maybe the emphasis is a little bit different? You were mentioning that, in the broader world, there's different people that teach about success, but it's always tinged with the mode of passion and ignorance. What would you say is the unique thing about Krishna conscious success?
Krishna conscious success principles that are described in the scriptures are similar to those we find in the professional literature, but there are some that are not actually given in the professional literature. For example, the very clear distinction between what we teach and what others teach is about being a doer or karta. So in the material world, they say you can do it, and whatever you can conceive, you can achieve.
Yep.
Basically, they tell us we are the doer. If we desire something, we can achieve it, and we can do it, and we are the only doer.
Right.
But in our philosophy, we know that we are not the only doer. There are 5 factors of action, and one of them is the supersoul. So the success formula that I teach is personal effort plus God's mercy equals success.
Yep.
So that's when we look at the factors of success and the factors of action, we know that we can do everything perfectly. We can do everything in line with the principles or natural laws, but still it doesn't guarantee success, and then ultimately the results depend on the Supreme.
Yep.
This is one distinction. And then there is many subtle and sophisticated things that differentiate, and if we look at the description of the modes, and we can see that acting in the mode of goodness is very clearly described in the Bhagavad Gita, and in the material world they preach or teach about goodness, but it is always tinged with passion and also sometimes with ignorance. So these are some of the differences.
Yeah, and that's intriguing, and it's making me think. I'm looking forward to reading your book to pick up on those distinctions that you bring out. It sounds like a great idea. Maybe you could talk. Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Maybe you could talk a little bit more now about what what it is. What is coaching, basically? Like you've talked about some of the basic principles of success. Could you explain? What you mean by coaching?
What I mean by coaching or by Gita coaching is helping devotees succeed by finding solutions that exactly meet their needs. And this finding is done finding Krishna conscious solutions or fulfilling their needs in a way that will not harm themselves or harm others or harm their Krishna consciousness. And the way we do this is by seeing devotees not according to their present performance or behavior, but seeing them based on their potential.
Nice.
And Bhagavad Gita in the 2nd chapter describes this. It says, Ashcharyavat, that every soul is amazing. So if every soul is amazing, then how much more every devotee is amazing?
Yeah.
So we try to see devotees in terms of their potential. And we know that they have much more potential than they are presently using or manifesting. And coaching will help them to identify that potential and use it in Krishna's service. Then we use all kinds of, for example, the principle of inspiration in coaching. We know that inspiration comes from the Supersoul. So I teach that inspiration is our own daily responsibility. It's not an accident, and we shouldn't expect others to inspire us. We should take full responsibility to be inspired every single day, whole day.
Right, so what you're saying is that we shouldn't depend on the circumstances or other people to try to inspire us, but we should take the initiative ourselves to create that state of inspiration.
Yes.
And motivation, I guess, is another way of putting it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I really like that theme about being motivated and taking initiative to make things happen rather than sort of waiting around for someone else to do it or for it just to happen, but to actually, take steps. Because when we take steps towards Krishna, then he makes steps towards us as well.
Yes, God helps those who help themselves. This is what Srila Prabhupada says in the purport to the 24th verse of the 6th chapter. He says, God helps those who help themselves. So when you start taking action and taking initiative, then Krishna is inclined to help. Sometimes he may test us a little bit, but then usually he's always there and he helps us in many ways. And we can achieve amazing things, even so-called impossible things. One thing also that in Gita coaching I teach is that nothing is impossible. I have a whole slideshow or whole collection of quotes where Prabhupada says that everything is possible, and he explains how. So when devotees tell me, I would like this, but it seems impossible, I say, well, let's look into it and see how it is possible.
Right.
And then usually they give up hopelessness and they develop hope.
Nice. One thing I was thinking about when you talked about inspiration and how we need to take responsibility for our own inspiration, I started to think that, okay, so each of us needs to take responsibility for our own success. So where does a coach come in? And I think you've given one answer just now, where a devotee may have some inspiration to do something, but they feel like they're stuck somehow because they think it's not possible, or something may be in the way, and that's one thing that coaching can help with.
Exactly. Actually, Gita is also an acronym for the coaching structure. GITA. G stands for goals, I stands for ideas and instructions, then T stands for tests or obstacles, and A stands for action.
Oh, nice.
So if you can use that acronym to create a structure for a session or for making a plan of action, and part of it is tests. So what are the tests that we need to pass in order to achieve our goals? These tests can be internal or external, and usually 80% at least of the tests or obstacles are internal.
Yeah. So true.
When you remove them, then the other 20% becomes easier. So one principle that we teach is that there is no problems in life, there is only opportunities. So we teach devotees to turn problems into opportunities by simply asking, what is this problem and opportunity for? And then making a huge list. And what I encourage devotees to do, people, including devotees, are actually lazy to think. So when they come to me for a session, I usually ask them to bring pen and paper. And then when they ask me something, how can I do this, or how can I solve this, or how can I achieve this, I say, what do you think? And they say, well, I don't know. That's why I came to you. You are more experienced, you are more knowledgeable, you are safer, so please enlighten me. And I say, no, you have brain, you're intelligent, think now, and think on paper. And then they resist a little bit. They say, well, it's hard. I don't know if I can do it. I'm stupid. I say, no, write, think, and work. And by the time I ask them usually for 10 solutions or 10 ideas. By the time they finish the 10th, there is a smile on their face. Because they see, I can get ideas, I can think of ideas, I can help myself, I can use my intelligence, and they see that they have more potential than they are using. So to me, high-class leadership means that you are not a problem solver. You are not a savior. You are a challenger and empower. And then this is a higher help for people.
It's like that idea about give a man a fish and feed him for a day, and teach him how to fish and feed him for a lifetime type of thing.
Oh, well, I turned it into a vegetarian example.
I was just thinking that as I said it, I thought, oh, wait a minute, that doesn't sound quite right.
Give a man bread, you feed him for a day. Teach him how to sow and reap, you feed him for a lifetime.
Yeah, that's much better. I must remember that one. Yeah, it's really interesting because just reflecting myself, I remember before I got initiated, at one point, I had this idea that once I get initiated, it'll be so easy because I won't have to think anymore, because my guru will just tell me everything, and whatever he tells me, I'll just do it. But it's not exactly how it works.
Yeah.
We still have to keep thinking at every stage.
So this is a very important point in my work, how I perceive what is help. To me, the best help is to help people to help themselves. I could give them so many ideas, so many tools and solutions, but this is not the best what I can do for them. Better service to them is to help them become strong, help them think, help them use their intelligence, help them find out their own resources and think about what is possible. And in this way, they don't depend on you anymore. They very quickly become empowered and they can start to become helpers of others.
Exactly right. I like that.
One thing I do is that people come to me and, they look like a patient. They look like a person who needs help, who is ill, who is a victim or whatever. And I say, look, you are coming to me as a patient. Why don't you become a doctor? And then they say, what do you mean? And I say, look, imagine somebody comes to you with the same problem. What would you tell them? And then they have to stretch. They have to think. Or sometimes we switch seats. I sit opposite of them and I say, come to my seat, now you are a coach. And then they are a little bit confused. I have to push them a little bit. And after they kind of get into that new role, immediately you can see how they get some extra intelligence.
It's amazing, yeah.
And they start to think like a doctor, and immediately they get ideas how to help the person who has the same problem as themselves. And I said, so what would you say to that person who has this problem? And they said, well, I would tell them, say, there you go. See? And sometimes also when I do sessions, actually I should do this more often, but what I do is that before I have a first session, I ask them, what questions would you like me to ask you? So in this way, they already start to become a person who is helping themselves. Even before I train them to help themselves as a coach. And they send me questions and I ask them questions. And usually these sessions with their questions, they like the most. So there is many ways to coach, and some coaches are more directive, some are less directive, and some coaches say that pure coaching means you never give advice. And some coaches think that we should share what we know, and usually coaches are experts in some area, so they can really share a lot. But by avoiding to teach while coaching, you actually help people become empowered. Of course, there is space for teaching. You can give courses, you can give talks, you can give motivational speeches, you can give classes, lectures, seminars, courses. But when you are coaching, it's better to help to empower people on the spot by helping them to draw onto their own resources, to use their brain, their own intelligence, and to become self-reliant or self-sufficient.
It's like what Prabhupada, in that letter to Karanda, probably my favorite letter of all time, where he says that the Krishna consciousness movement is for training men to be independently thoughtful and competent in all areas of thought and action.
Right.
And that's what you're doing with your coaching, is helping people to become self-sufficient and independently thoughtful and competent in their thinking.
Right, but I don't teach them to be independent of, their authorities.
Yeah. It's an important distinction, that one.
Sometimes devotees misunderstand that quote, and they think, okay, then I become independent of ISKCON, independent of my guru, independent of the temple president. I don't teach that. I teach cooperation, following authorities, but definitely coaching helps to fulfill that instruction.
Yeah, I think there's a distinction between the idea of being independent in terms of not surrendered, as opposed to independent, which is the opposite of dependent. Instead of being a strain or a burden on the guru, for example, instead we develop the skills that we can think on our own and do things that please the guru rather than always turning to him and needing support.
I must mention one spiritual master in ISKCON who was very coach-like in dealing with me, and he's still like that, I think, also with his disciples. It's Krsnendu Prabhu. When I was in the 80s, when I was working with one Grihastha devotee, I was also a Grihastha at that time, and I complained about him because he was quite rude with devotees and with his wife, and he did different things, and I complained to him, and Krsnendu Prabhu was listening to me patiently, and then he said, Does he have any good qualities? Then I thought, I became so negative, and I became like a fly. And then I said, sure, he has, but I just got too much fired up about his bad qualities. So from I learned that people, we should look also at the bright side or at the good qualities of others. And by just asking me that question, he actually completely shifted my paradigm, my point of view of that in general about people. And then also once I used to translate books, and I was into book production, but I was never very, very successful in book distribution. And then I would complain to him that, I'm so bad at books and I distribute very few books. And he told me an amazing thing. He said, well, we don't focus on what we can't do, we focus on what we can do.
Nice.
So that gave me a huge hope, and I started focusing on what I can do, like translating or teaching. And I became more positive about myself and less, hopeless and helpless. And it was wonderful, and now I remember that it was actually perfect coaching.
It sounds very much like the abundance mentality versus the scarcity mentality. They're looking at what the good things are and what the opportunities are rather than looking at the negative side.
Yeah, this is another huge aspect of my work. Abundance, teaching about abundance, and understanding that God is Bhagavan, that He is full of our opulences, He is not poor, and His devotees do not have to be poor. So the thing about there is no jobs, there is no money, this is all just manipulation, and this is not true. And when people come to me and say, I lack this and I lack that, then we look more closely and more carefully in what they already have, then we discover actually a lot of abundance in their lives, financial, emotional, knowledge-wise, skills-wise, even real estate. I mean, so many things we discover. So one part of my work with devotees is to put on paper what you already have and what you should be more grateful for. Gratitude is also related to that abundance and recognition of abundance given by God. Gratitude is also one huge part of my work, because I think gratitude is one of the most powerful Shastric success principles. The more grateful you are, the more I believe Krishna is inclined to give you anything you need and more than that. And if you develop a giving mentality, then God will give you unlimited resources for yourself and for others, so that you can give others. And so I sometimes actually teach things that sound extreme and that are shocking sometimes. Like, for example, when somebody is in financial difficulty, I advise them to start giving. So they say, I have nothing. I say, okay, give half of it. They say, well, how can I do this? I say, okay, give anything, at least give support, give praise, give advice, give a cup of water, but start giving and you will start getting. And those who believe in God and believe in that God's principles start doing it, they always see that it works.
Amazing. It's like magic.
That
brings me to a point. I'm just wondering, you've met a lot of different devotees that have come to you for coaching. What are some of the reasons that they come to you? Like you've talked here that sometimes devotees feel financial difficulty, maybe relationship difficulties. What are some of the other reasons that devotees would come to you?
About 5 years ago, I started keeping track of devotees I coached. I started making a list, and I have coached more devotees than that, but I have on my list over 650 devotees.
Wow.
These are mainly ISKCON temple and congregational devotees, but sometimes there is some people who are like guests or people who are interested in Krishna consciousness, but mainly ISKCON devotees. And among my clients, there is gurus, GBCs, sannyasis, temple presidents, men, women, senior Prabhupada disciples, both men and women. And I had this privilege, and they were so kind to accept my assistance. But I never thought I'm better than them, I'm more advanced than them. I just saw myself as somebody who has some skills and who can assist them in their valuable service. But I was always also learning from them, from their experience and from their examples. And I always had a high respect for them. People come to me with all kinds of issues. It can be relationships, financial, but usually, actually, if you ask me what is the one greatest factor of success for a devotee, that's faith. If they have faith in God, then we can build up a plan of action and of success that is unbreakable and unstoppable. But if they have some doubts in Krishna, if they have some doubts in Prabhupada's teachings, if they have some doubts in our movement, of course our movement has so many difficulties, but still Prabhupada, I believe, wants us to to continue building it, and that there is sincere devotees, there is, I think, leaders who have integrity, and there is many people who are trustworthy. But if they lose their faith in Krishna and Prabhupada and the movement, then it's very difficult to build a success plan. But if faith is there, then we can work on building such a plan. And sometimes the problem is just lack of self-trust or self-confidence.
Right.
They just don't believe they can do it. So in many cases, actually, self-confidence is the case. But these two kinds of faith, if they are in place, then we can work on all other issues. I work a lot on helping devotees develop a spiritual perception, become a Shastra Chakshu, and see things with spiritual eyes. That helps a lot with all kinds of issues. And but there is, as you said, there is relationships, financial conflicts. There is, lack of clarity. They are sometimes the problem is they don't know what they want. So we need to find out what they want to do and be and have. And so I help them to clarify that. And sometimes they have different kinds of obstacles, so we work to remove the obstacles. But as I said, most obstacles are internal.
Yeah. And I think, like you mentioned, especially self-doubt seems to be a really big obstacle.
Yeah. And I have learned many things from professionals, and I want to give them some credit. They help me see devotees differently, see situations differently. And they highlighted some principles from the scriptures that I neglected or forgot, like abundance mentality or building trust, very basic, very fundamental things.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful to these people, these professionals, and to express my gratitude to them, I have actually tried to contact them and to get to know them personally.
Oh, nice.
And some of them actually I have met in person. Some of them I had personal exchanges on email. I have had personal exchanges with Brian Tracy, Tony Robbins. Sometimes I would challenge them, ask them certain questions, and they would very patiently respond. And one very famous coach I have met personally and I have given him a Gita and Light of the Bhagavad book. He has eaten prasadam. He visited our London temple when I was there. And so I had a huge fight with him in the Regent's Park in London, just about philosophy, and he started to kind of blaspheme Krishna consciousness. And I was very gentle with him, very quiet. I didn't become rude, but he became very, very agitated and even started running away from me.
Really? Wow.
Physically, but I ran after him. I didn't want to let him go because, he would take a taxi back to his hotel where my bicycle was parked. So I went with him into the taxi and continued arguing. But believe me, he considered himself to be a Buddhist, and he's very big. I will tell you in private his name. Okay. He's a huge guru. I mean, he's on the lists of top 50 thinkers, and he has like 30 books, and he has a PhD in behavioral psychology. Huge. But he has broken all of his principles.
Wow.
And but then after a few days he apologized, and we found out it was very emotional, and he said I reminded him of his days when he was expelled from the Baptist church. So he apologized and he said that I have a right to think and believe what I want.
Wow.
But one thing that I felt on that day, I felt very close to Prabhupada, because Prabhupada said we should challenge and defeat Mayavadis. And I felt so much satisfaction that I have agitated the Mayavadi that I thought I should repeat it. I didn't get another chance to meet any such big guy who is so much convinced about his, impersonal views. But now, that's one side of the story. Another side is that I have learned so much from that person. He has generously given me his books for free and always answer my email. And still, to this day, we are friends. But, he has gone very deep into leadership coaching. He has gone very deep into human psychology and how to improve. And some of the things I'm teaching in my courses are from him. I'm grateful to these people, and I try to give them Krishna consciousness. He got Prashadam, he got Prabhupada's books. Sometimes I send them e-books of Prabhupada or send them a hard copy to their address as a sign of gratitude for their free books and their teachings and their inspiration. And whenever there is an opportunity, sometimes I also make an interview with them, personal interview, and publish it, or edit and publish. So, yeah, it's just that sometimes everybody's become very harsh about these professionals and learning from other people. But I think we can make friends with them and give them Krishna consciousness and learn from them. And by engaging their works in Krishna consciousness, I think they also benefit.
Right, yeah. Definitely. That's the perfection. Well, that was a really interesting story. And I suppose in the material world, we can all develop good qualities and have really good theories, but we can all have a bad day as well, I guess, and have weak points. But, that doesn't mean that we should overlook the good points too.
Yeah.
I'm just, if somebody would want to become a life coach, like you've become a life coach, what would you recommend to them as a path to do that?
To get training.
I suppose you'd be able to point them in the right direction, right? From your experiences. I
can recommend some training companies, and I provide coach training myself.
Okay, cool.
I give Gita coaching courses for devotees who want to learn coaching skills. So I can provide this if I come in person or over the internet. So I sometimes do Skype sessions, training sessions, and I have also recorded Gita coaching courses and presentations. One of them is on Krishna.com that I did when I was in Alachua, Florida, a few years ago. And there is 5-6 sessions, and one can learn quite a lot from that. But if you get me to come and have a live course, then we do more exercises. And when I'm there, we can resolve all kinds of questions that they have, or sub-questions, on the spot. So it's easier to, get more training.
Right, it's more customized to the individuals.
Yes. Online training is also possible, but in-person training, I think it's more effective.
Yeah, definitely.
I have a lot of coaching materials which are my own and also professionals, probably a few gigabytes, that I'm willing to share with anyone who writes me on akrura@gmail.com.
Okay, so akrura@gmail.com.
Yes, akrura@gmail.com. Or you can visit my blog, Gita Coaching. If you type Gita Coaching on Google, first link will be gitacoaching.blogspot.com. And there also about my photo is my email, so people can email me from there. I mean, they can use my email. And I'm willing to share for free all these materials. And my materials are always growing and expanding. And I just got some new things that I have uploaded, audios and videos that devotees can use on the blog.
Nice. Yeah.
So, yeah, if anybody wants to contact me, or they can get many things for free.
Sounds great. Do you also have services that you charge for?
I don't charge for coaching, but I don't reject donations.
Right.
First thing about coaching is that if devotees find value, that is important. And if they find some value, usually devotees always naturally want to reciprocate. So I say, if you give me an orange or an apple, or or if you want to reciprocate in any other way, I wouldn't reject. But I don't charge for coaching or for courses.
So do you find that you can support yourself from those donations, or do you have some other means of supporting yourself financially and so on?
Well, my experience since I started traveling in 2009 is that I get so much that I can also give to those in need.
Oh, nice. So it's very much an abundance model in action.
I mean, Krishna exists, Krishna is there, and if we want to help others, I think He gives us more than we need to do that, and if we want to, He gives us enough, or even more than we need. So I think it works. Just here in Slovenia, I was negotiating with a journalist about an interview with me in an esoteric magazine, the most famous in Slovenia. And she said, I asked her for a title of the interview, and she said, the title is, "If you become more spiritual, your business will grow." So I said, okay. I checked it with the public relations devotee if he's okay with that title. And he said, if you are okay, I'm okay, but I don't know what we will speak there. Sounds like karma kanda.
Yeah.
And then I said, don't worry, I will use it to preach about pure devotional service. But these things. I did some interviews also with some companies recently, and they are also on my blog, Spirituality and Business.
Oh, that sounds interesting.
As Prabhupada said, we can actually connect everything to Krishna consciousness. So I'm trying to do it with business, with yoga. I also visit yoga studios and teach there.
Yeah.
And I can see that yoga people are not happy; they're missing something. So I'm giving them like a combination of kirtan yoga, because I also do music,
right.
And the motivational.
Nice integration. Using your talents.
And the best part of my presentations in yoga studios is the kirtan at the end. And they really like it. But it's very important that we find ways to build bridges for people. To present Krishna consciousness in a way that is very relevant, very attractive, very precisely suited to their needs and their concerns and interests. And then people will see that Krishna consciousness is very practical. And it's not sectarian, and it's not a religion. It's something that can be help in every area of life.
Well, that's great. I really like the way that you're empowering devotees, but at the same time you're also reaching out to people outside of that, a small circle of initiated devotees, and reaching out to a broader audience as well. That's great.
The wonderful thing about coaching is that it always pushes me to improve myself.
Mm.
I always coach myself. I always use the tools I'm using with others, myself, and it's very exciting. My life is never boring. And I'm also very open to learn from my clients. Sometimes they're like 3 times younger than me. Can it be 3 times? Divide 54 in 3. How much it is? At least 2 times. Yeah. These people have amazing points. I can learn so much from them. And sometimes I get feedback and they, correct me and things like that.
Mm.
But one of the most powerful principles from the Bhagavad Gita, the success principles that I teach, is in the 7th verse of the 2nd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Karpanya dosho pahata svabhava shishaste shadimam tvam prapanam. Arjuna admits he needs help and he is open to learn.
Right.
I think if we are open to learn our whole life, we cannot fail.
Yeah.
We will always be successful. So that's something I'm trying to apply. And by talking high, I oblige myself to act high.
Yeah.
And it's a challenge every single day.
Mm. It's so true. And that's Prabhupada, he told us to preach Krishna consciousness even from the very beginning, and it calls us to try to live up to it.
Yes?
It's beautiful. Well, thanks so much for your time, Prabhu. I really appreciate the fact that you've shared with me. I've learned so much. I've actually been doing a mind map, and I've got things all over the screen, all kinds of ideas. Really helpful. So yeah, thanks for speaking to us. And just to wrap up, you've already mentioned that you can be contacted through your email address, akrura@gmail.com. And any devotee is welcome to get in touch with you about any services, whether they want coaching from you or whether they want to learn more about how to become a coach. Have you got any final words that you'd like to share before we wrap up this call?
Yes. My last message to devotees is chant attentively every single day. Take your japa as sacred. Take your 2 hours of japa as sacred time, which is you and Krishna alone, and make it the best part of your day. And the rest of the day, challenge yourself. Every hour, challenge yourself. How to be better, how to improve, how to serve better, how to be a better devotee, and how to be more intelligent.
Nice meditation to finish on. Thank you, Prabhu. So once again, thank you very much for giving us the time today and sharing with us your experiences as well as your wisdom. And just remind anyone, if you've come across this interview out in the cyberspace somewhere, that you can find more interviews like this and discussions on these type of topics at successfulvaishnavas.com. And look forward to keeping in touch and helping devotees to become more successful, and in the process helping myself to become more Krishna conscious too. So thank you very much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
I want to thank you very much for this interview, for inviting me to do this interview, and for your very valuable work. I very much appreciate what you do with your website, successfulvaishnavas.com, and your other services to devotees and people in general. And I'm so inspired by your work that I already started promoting your work on my blog.
Yes.
And I'm expecting some people to contact me and for help how to get in touch with you and get your association and assistance.
Well, that's amazing. I haven't even really started to promote my site yet. I just put it up there, and I was just kind of getting it ready, and it's amazing the number of people that have come because of you. I really appreciate that. Yeah, it's great. Thank you, Prabhu.
It's my pleasure. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
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 Krishna.